What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to DoloresCannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.
Okay, it looks like everybody is wandering back from lunch anyway. They always say the hardest spot for any speaker is right after lunch, because their tummies are full and they start getting sleepy and they start dozing off. Well, I don't think we're going to have that problem with Blair. He's going to keep you awake anyway. Okay. Now, Blair Styra, we've known each other about 10 years. He's the most renowned channel in New Zealand. Over there, he's very well known. He's not that well known in the U.S. yet, but we're changing that. But when I first went to New Zealand, we have really good friends there, and I met Blair for the first time, and he introduced me to New Zealand. We did lectures together and talks together over there, so he got me acquainted with New Zealand. So we said it's only fair now that we bring him to the U.S. And November was the first time we did a talk out in California. And then this time we decided, well, come over and we're going to stay longer. We invited him to our conference, and then next month, the whole month of July, we're going to be doing lectures all over the United States together. And whenever people have heard us talk, they think it's rehearsed. And it's not, because he goes out. He goes off somewhere. Well, Tabaash is the one that speaks through him. We never know what he's going to say. But it seems like the two of us, when we're doing lectures together, kind of plays off of each other. And it's not rehearsed. But today is going to be Blair by himself. This is what he usually does in Australia, in New Zealand. I keep wanting to say Australia. Okay. But he does a lot of sessions in New Zealand, and he does them by phone to people all over the world. And I think you're going to like Tabaash. Has a wonderful sense of humor. And maybe toward the end, he'll be answering questions from the audience. And Tabaash doesn't fool around. He says it just like it is. You know, he doesn't sugarcoat anything. But anyway, we brought him to America now, and I think he's going to be seeing more of him. He's working out in Hollywood. People are interested in promoting him, so I think you're going to hear a lot more from Blair Styra. But at least we're getting him started in the U.S. Okay, I think that was all we wanted to say, but would you want to make it to tell that story you just told me? Okay, but Blair Styra from New Zealand. Okay. Okay. You're hooked up, okay. But tell the story you just told me about the author that died. Remember I told you that earlier. Tell me what happened with that.
Well, this morning I just had a wander around next door there, and I was having a look at Dolores' books, and I was just drawn to a particular book, and I just looked at it and then came in here. And then just about 10 minutes ago, I went up there again, and again I was drawn to the same book. And I inadvertently just put my hand on it, and I got this amazing burst of energy in my sixth chakra. And then just all this energy going through my body. And then I looked down, and it was the book that the chap who'd passed away had written. And then I was just telling Julia, just before, we were just standing over there. And when I told her, she suddenly felt really hot. And I could really, really feel his presence, really with us. So I think he's watching over us, and he's still much a part of this. I was also thinking that traveling all this way from New Zealand, this is the longest I've ever had to come to reach an appointment, actually. When we arrived in LAX, the plane was delayed. We had to sit in the plane for half an hour because of customs. And you really learn a lot about people's spirituality and lack of spirituality when you also learn a lot about what they smell like too, and what they had for breakfast. Anyway, I've been channeling spirit in New Zealand for 20 years. Tabaash, he's a very amiable, direct, in-your-face entity. He came from an area called Sumeria, which of course today is where Iraq and Iran are, but when Tabaash was alive, it was part of the ancient Mesopotamian Empire. The way Tabaash works, he says it as he feels it as he sees it. He's really funny, as Dolores said. I'm very lucky to have him in my life. A lot of people say to me, oh, you know, is Tabaash speaking all these spiritual truths to you all the time, etc. Whereas in fact, it's more like just having, you know, your best friend, your father, your brother, whatever, around you all the time. I mean, he'll even train me at the gym when I'm training sometimes. And he has changed my life, and it keeps on evolving all the time. Coming here to the US, it wasn't anything I really ever thought about. And I'll just tell you a quick story about how I came to be here. I did a Esther Hicks Abraham cruise to Alaska in July last year. And while I was on board, I met up with these two guys who are agents for a lot of authors who write for Hay House Publishers. Anyway, they met Tabaash, and said, look, we'd like to do something for you in the States. Could you come over? So that's when I came over in November last year and stayed out in California and met some people, as you do here. And ever since then, I keep meeting more people, and it's great. I just love it here. So I never, ever know what Tabaash is going to say. That's the one thing about being a channel. You don't sit down and prepare notes or anything like that. So, you know, it's basically just a stab in the dark, really. Have lots of fun with him. He's really great. And he'll probably wander around the audience. He might pick on you a bit if he wants to. He often stops and gives people some readings sometimes. Then he might not, so I just leave it up to him, basically. So have a cool time with him, and you can come talk to me afterwards. So what I do is I'll sit down. It only takes about 30 seconds for me to make the link with Tabaash. And then he'll be there, and he'll get into it straight away. So we'll see when I get back.
Hello. I believe I shall talk to you about how you work, how life is. It all begins when you look at everything as just consciousness itself. Life as life. And as consciousness, which is what you are all, you could literally say that you have no identity at all. And without identity, that is how you are God. For you indeed are God. And what is God? But God is the highest way you can experience life. And what is life? It is what you are always doing all of the time. Whether you be in your bodies or out of your bodies, or like me, borrowing a body. But whatever you're doing, you've got to remember that you always have access to the highest consciousness all of the time. And you never ever move away from that. Apart from the times when you take on board the idea that you are not God. To be involved in your God nature is not something you need to think about. Because the moment you wake up in your morning, you present to yourself life. And as you go through your day, you are creating life by what you think and what you feel and what you do. But what you are doing is you are getting too caught up into what you term as your human nature. And when you are caught up into your human nature, then you are involved in frequencies, ideas, concepts, experiences that limit that which you are God, that limits the access you have to the consciousness that is everything. So, in the beginning, as you humans say, it was like just a vibration. And in that vibration is everything. And in that everythingness, you have access to all. And that is what you were born with when you came into your bodies. You were born with all the systems intact. And this is how you changed it. So imagine this big space. And then you come into a body. And as you come into a body, you come into a different frequency. A frequency that is denser than what it is you have known before. And then, in those first few years of your life is interpreted by the thoughts, ideas, and experiences of other people. So you absorb the consciousness of your parents. You absorb the consciousness of those people that you've created connections with. And so this defines the idea of what you believe life to be. And then obviously as you grow up and you have your own experiences, you begin to interpret your life based on what you have felt, what you know, where you stand. And then what happens? We have this grand tug of war between what you feel and what you think and what you know, and then that which other people think and feel and what they know. And so you are constantly being bombarded all through your lives. What should I feel? What should I be? What should I think? What should I feel? What should I do? What is right? What is wrong? What is enlightenment? Well, that's easy, to be in light of you. So remember, you are consciousness. You humans speak of dimensions. Now, since everything that is God is all dimensions, all blended together, this is what you have access to. And so, in your first few years, you begin to put like a layer onto the God that you are. And in that layer comes human nature ideas, human nature feelings, human nature concepts. And in that first layer, it houses, as we'll put it, certain people, certain personality traits, certain concepts, certain ideas. And then as you bring another level of your life in, then you bring another lot of people in, another lot of ideas and concepts. And so the experiences keep happening. Now, if you are attuned always to the God nature, then what happens is that the human nature in you knows automatically how to dilute or delete the old frequencies, the old systems, so that you're always making room for the new vibrations, you see. But when humans get caught up into their human nature, then what they end up doing is allowing themselves to be running themselves from the emotional state and therefore not the God nature. So you begin to get this heavy, dense layers upon you of all these old ideas, all these old patterns. And so I call it, you're dragging your misery guts barges around with you. And when you drag these barges around with you, this is what manifests itself in your physical systems as your heaviness, as your uncertainties, as your doubts, as your fears, as your worries, as your concerns, you see. And the more and more you involve yourself in this, then the further and further you get away from that which you term to be your God nature. And the further you get away from the power source, the more difficult it is to actually live. And so, as you become more involved in the self-development, what you are doing is that you start to develop these ideas of life, once again, from your God nature. So having created all these layers, then you start to take them off. And as you take these layers off, then that's when you remove yourself from those old concepts, those old experiences. I make peace with that. I release myself from my pain. I release myself from, that old ignorance, or my upbringing, or that illness, or whatever. Because all it was an idea that I paid far too much attention to. And here's a very, very simple phrase, and it's a very powerful phrase. What you pay attention to is going to become your life. Whether you think it, or feel it, or express it, that's how it works. And it is that simple. So if you think about it, you don't have to get too deep and meaningful on yourselves all the time, really, do you? What you have to do is remember, what am I paying attention to? Here is this day. What shall I think? What shall I feel? What shall I be? What shall I do? How shall I experience life? What is my decision? Not, I better look up in the magazine and see what I should be doing for this day. What do you choose? What do you feel? What do you think? You're the gods, nobody else. Anything you go to is going to be a stimulant. It's not going to give you the answer. Nothing can give you the answer because you are the answer. You're the only souls who can make your life your life. No one else can do that for you. No one. And if you hang around waiting for someone to give you the truth, well, you're not going to find it. What you're going to do is you're going to create someone in your life that you hope is going to give you the truth. And if that's what you get, well, then I suppose you could say that's your truth. You humans have a phrase, reality is what you perceive it to be. So what do you perceive? Do you choose to give yourself a greater chance? Or do you choose to allow yourself to, what you humans say, go with the flow? Which I completely disagree with. I only think dead fish do that. If you're going to go in the river of your life, then don't you want to do the steering? Don't you want to be the ones who feel that, yes, I am my master, I'm standing in my core, I'm creating everything that I want? When humans have this idea of, I really want to make this happen. But then when it comes to the absolute reality of actually really making it happen, the fears come up, the doubts come up, the worries come up. Or someone comes up and says, you can't do that, you shouldn't do that, or you've got to do this before you can do that. But if you are gods, and you are following the way you understand what God is to you, then you will know your truth. And knowing your truth allows you to have the power of life always flowing through you. And if you choose not to do that, that is okay too. Because you're just God doing it that way. So right now, you're all gods. And you're just doing it your way. And there's no right way, and there's no wrong way. And so here you are all, as souls, who are born at a time in your history when all those layers are being slowly taken away. And what is happening? It's making you more conscious of your true self. And as you get closer and closer to that true self, then of course the human nature goes, yeah, right. Meaning, you're not going to get away with this. So the human nature in you puts up a fight because it's so used to being in control. How dare you get healthy? How dare you get out there and have perfect relationships? How dare you become wealthy and get everything you want? I'm in charge. You can't do that. We have to have hurdles. We have to go around in circles. We have to be full of misery guts sometimes. And then, of course, the more you feed the God in you, the more you expand the higher consciousness. And it's not to see the human nature as something that you need to fight, because if you see it that way, it's going to go, oh, great, dinner. So what you do is you starve it, and you starve it with love. And then you turn it into something different. And as you turn it into something different, this is where you have to be conscious. And this is where, at this time in your history, you people are very involved in having to make sure you're giving very, very specific messages to your human nature. Because it needs the specific human nature messages from the God. not from the human nature. It's like the God nature is the parent, and the human nature is the child. And it's looking towards the God nature for the guidance. It's looking for the rules, the systems that knows how to work. And if you don't, then what happens is this. So you have it, and this is the way I like to put it. You have your God nature, which is your true nature. Then you have your body nature, and then you have your mind nature. And your body nature and your mind nature have no ability to create life on their own. And so if your God nature does not tell your body nature or your mind nature what's going on, then what does the body and the mind do? It takes refuge in your emotional state. And that's where you store up all your files from all your experiences. So for instance, say you're feeling a bit flat and down. And your soul nature has not told the body and the mind nature what's going on. So the body and the mind are having a bit of a talk to themselves. And the body's going, oh, mind nature, what's going on? He's feeling a bit flat. What do we normally do in these circumstances? And the mind goes, oh, I don't know, usually she goes a bit flat or he goes a bit this or whatever. Oh, okay, there you go. So they simply take refuge in previous experiences. And this is how you humans repeat things. If you don't tell your mind body what the situation is, then of course you're just going to reach for the old file. And this is why people keep getting sick and keep having bad relationships and keep creating all these upheavals for themselves simply because they're just caught up into the old files. So what are you doing? You're paying attention to the old vibrations, to the old experiences. Oh, I'll never get this right. Oh, I always seem to go through the relationships and all those sorts of things. So you're just feeding consistently these ideas to yourself. And the human nature is going to take those ideas and it's going to turn it into something. And obviously, if the God nature, for instance, you could even say, come in here today. Oh, body, mind, we're going to this conference. This is how I want you to be with it. This is what I need you to absorb. This is how I wish to experience it. Oh, body, mind, I'm going to the gym. I want to be a superhuman athlete. Oh, body, mind, I'm going to this great date. I want it to be really hot and work for me. And so what you do, you put everybody into the picture. If you don't put everything into the picture, then how is it that you can be supplied with the food of life? It's like when your bodies who have just had your lunch need to be fed, you feed them. If you don't feed them, they starve. And that's how life is. You don't feed it, it starves. But also too, if you don't feed it palatable food, then it's going to tear you. So you've heard of food poisoning? Well, you can get soul poisoning too. And so what you end up doing, oh, I didn't like that experience, I got to regurgitate it, you see. And this is what people are doing through their illnesses, through all the different things that you go through mentally and physiologically. You are allowing yourself to become infected with the way that you think. You have become allergic to life because you're putting energies into your systems that do no longer suit you. Because as you've evolved in your God nature, then the human nature wants something finer and greater and bigger and better. And that's why all of you have decided at some point in this incarnation, in fact, way before you were ever born in these bodies, you wanted to be God consciously. And that's what has put you onto the path that you have established for yourself. And so what you do with it, remember, is your choice. And even if you would say in your human mind, oh, that's wrong. No, it's not. You can't really define life in that way anymore. It's a very depressing way to look at life. Taking the good and the bad and the happy and the sad. If you see it from that nature, how can you ever stop conflict? How can you ever stop having those tug-of-wars when you take the good and the bad? Why not just have life and then decide what you want to do with it? Why not just organize it in the way that works for you? Why not just take on the idea, oh, I don't have conflict in my life anymore. I don't have pain in my life anymore. And pay attention to that. And tell your bodies and tell your minds. And as you do so, well then inevitably things will shift. They have to. That's what you were created with. The ability to organize life. The ability to create life. The ability to be more and more and more. Because it never ends. It never ends. In human nature terms, it is a frightening time to be alive, as people say. But again, only if you take that concept on board. Collectively, you can change everything. Individually, you are so powerful that you alter everything that's going on around all of the time. even without being aware that you are doing it. And so if you are always vibrating to your highest idea of your God nature, well then, without even having to say anything or be conscious of any action, you are lifting consciousness. To quote Nelson Mandela, as you let your own light shine, you unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And if you look at the simplicity of that, it really is that easy and that simple. You just think for a moment about the position that you are right now in your life. You are the souls who chose to be alive again. You chose your gender. You chose the time in history that you wished to have been born into, with all of its influences on all levels possible. You chose the countries of your birth. You chose your parents, your siblings. You've created and chosen everything. And all of your life has been lived up to this point, where now you are sitting in your chairs. It's all behind you. So far, how have you done? Big question. Here I am in my life. How have I done so far? And it's all in front of me. And so for the rest of my life, what do I choose? How do I wish to be? How do I wish to think, to feel, to experience life? Not, oh, I wonder what's out there for me. Oh, what is my destiny? What is the meaning of my life? What is the purpose of my existence? What do you want it to be? You don't have to look too far ahead. I think it's enough just to create the rest of today rather than the rest of your life. If you look at it from that point, it's just the moment that you are actually experiencing that's creating the more of what is in front of you. And so, it is about being very present. Because by being very present, that allows you to understand what you're carrying with you and what the views are in front of you. And so it's just really the pivot. So everybody now in history has reached a pivotal point. You're having to be conscious of the way that you're carrying your pasts. And I don't mean just in this incarnation, but the way that you understand your influences from other lives that you've experienced. And as you experience the openness and feelings and attitudes and ideas through the information you gather through many different sources, then what you're doing, you're pulling in important information that your soul has gathered. To assist you in this process, you could say to yourself, I am God going to the parts of me in other lifetimes that gained enlightenment in that lifetime. And I choose to bring it in to this incarnation. Now obviously, it doesn't mean that suddenly you're going to have great revelations in your thoughts. What will happen is that you will feel a sense of harmony, a sense of balance. So it's a good new way of putting it, I'm pulling myself together. So as you pull the energy in, then you are aligning. And in your alignment, then what you are allowing yourself to do is to once again be absolutely and totally attuned to all that is. And this is interesting too, because your magnetism starts to shift the way that you're attracting towards you each other in your experiences. So after a while, you begin to shed so many different dimensions that you no longer access certain people in your lives, or experiences in your life, or attitudes, or ideas. You've all experienced, oh, it's really funny, I just don't seem to see so-and-so anymore. They just seem to have gone out of my life. The other thing, of course, is that as you lift your consciousness up, you literally start to become invisible to certain people, because you're literally in another dimension. And as some of you have discovered, people walk into you. Oh, I'm so sorry, I did not see you. And that's true, they didn't. They absolutely didn't, you see. Or you are in an experience and you are observing something. Say, for instance, someone was here in this conference and somebody says, oh, yeah, I thought you were going to come to the conference. And you go, well, yeah, I was there. What are you talking about? Yeah, I saw you. Oh, I didn't see you. Because that person wasn't experiencing it from a different level of consciousness, you see. So think about it. Right now, there are layers upon layers and layers and layers of experiences. The room is full. And so when you look at it from that point, as you vibrate to a certain frequency, what's happening? You're a magnet for attracting towards you the experience you need on all levels, intellectually, physiologically, spiritually, you name it. And so you attract towards you the souls that resonate to your needs. And at the same time also, you create a feeling about, oh no, I don't need to attune to that. So you shy away from certain people or ideas or concepts or whatever. Because your soul self is going, no, you don't need that. But of course, human nature is very good, because what it does, it goes, why? So of course, your brain starts tick, 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 tick. Instead of listening to your soul that says, no, you don't need that. Because remember, your soul is very literal. It knows what you need and what you do not need. But then your brain goes, oh, that date I had, it didn't work out, but maybe if he calls again, then yeah, maybe I'll think about it, you see. And your soul's going, no, girl, you're heading for danger. Don't go down that road. Oh, maybe. Oh, but you see, I'm so lonely and I have all this need to experience life on this level, etc. And the soul's going, no, you're heading for danger. So you go into danger ground, and then up the evils come, and then what happens is that, oh, I only wish I'd listened to what I said to myself before. And so this is where, if you trust the fact that the God nature in you knows absolutely and exactly what to do, then this is where you start to only attract towards you the frequencies of dimensions that work 100% to give you the best reality that you actually know that you are capable of having. And you'll keep on doing it until you get it that way. Now you could do that in this lifetime, or you can keep being reborn and reborn and reborn and reborn, but somewhere along the road you're going to get it. Okay, at this time, because everything is accelerating, then it's like, right, well, let's take advantage of this. The God in me is getting bigger. The God in me is expanding more. The God in me is experiencing life more. Now let's tell my human body that more, so it also can do the same thing too. Because, if the soul marches on, it's getting on with things, and the body's going, oh yeah, I'll get around to that eventually, or I must think about that at some point. So there's always that point where you realize that if you don't pull all the vibration in, then you're just going to be too scattered. And what does that do? That gives you the illusion that life is scattered. And then you've got to go out there and find yourselves. But you don't need to go and find anything. You never have needed to. And so now, at this point in history, take complete responsibility for the fact that you are God. Take complete responsibility for the fact it's only you who's going to make everything happen. Only you can give yourself what you want. You already have life. Whether you're going to be in your bodies or out of them, you're always going to have life. But what way do you want to experience it? And so this is time where you look at what I said before. Well, in life, how am I doing so far? What's it been for me now? And from this point, what's it going to be all about? What do I choose to think and feel and be and do? Who do I need in my life? Who do I realize that I just can no longer be involved in that situation? And sometimes it's very difficult, because sometimes that is with people that you really care about. It could be family. It could be your best friend. But whatever it is, there's a part of your God self that says, look, I just can't do that anymore. And it doesn't mean that you have to shut the door, but it means that you change the way that you relate to that circumstance, that scenario, that person, etc. It's your evolution. And as you evolve, it makes sense to think. You outgrow each other. You outgrow ideas. You outgrow feelings. You outgrow yourself. You outgrow life. But then you grow into life differently. And you grow into yourselves differently. And you grow into new ideas and new concepts and new possibilities. But with some people, you can't grow into them anymore, because whatever your experience was, that was it. And that means you can no longer be connected with that situation. And your karma will define the way that you deal with that. So sometimes it's easy. They just lose touch and they just seem to go out of your life. Other times you need to be more conscious of your communication. Other times it's conflict. And all conflict only comes about because you're not doing the driving. If you do the driving, then there will be no conflict. If you look at all the conflict that's going on this planet at this particular point, it's simple fact. It's because people are not paying attention to the formula of life on this planet. And what's the formula of life? Mind, body, spirit. Simple. You feed your mind, feed your body, feed your spirit, you have harmony. And what does harmony do? It gives you this sense of integration. And what does that do to your bodies? It makes you a magnet And so you set off this huge process of magnetism to attract towards you more. And so, because the human nature is running the world, this is why you have your wars, this is why you have your conflicts. This is why people are at each other all of the time. And even all of you, within your own spirituality, so to speak, sometimes you still get caught up into your human nature misery guts. Sometimes you still allow yourself to say, oh, it's too hard. We just get caught up into your attitudes and your ideas that don't work for you. And it's not wrong, but then if you allow yourself to recognize, yeah, I am that powerful, basically, see. Not too bad. You have so much power. I honor you enormously for the gift that you're given to other people, because your compassion in the way that you give life to people is really beautiful. But, you've been thrown around a little bit emotionally. And so you got to remember that when you get thrown around, remember they're still your ideas and your attitudes. So it's not that you have to go and do a lot of therapy about it. But what you need to do is you just need to do some what you call tying up of loose ends. So it's just a little bit of like empty. And when you do your emptying, then what happens is that you just get clear. I like to give people this phrase. I'm going to get everyone to say this, you see. But I do honor you enormously for what you are to people. I'd like everyone to repeat this, please. It's very simple and it's very powerful, but it really works. And it's a really good way of just releasing yourself from all the garbage, because you have to empty the garbage out every so often. Right, you ready? Say this with true conviction, because it's about emptying. And when you also say it in a big group like this too, it's even more powerful. Don't shout. Okay. From the Lord God of my being, I now choose to be totally liberated. Mind, body, and spirit. Of all that limits me. Of all I am attached to. That does not serve me. Of all I am addicted to. That does not profit me. I ask forgiveness of all people I have hurt in my life, in any life, in any way at all. I forgive all who have hurt me in my life, in any life, in any way at all. I forgive myself for all the ways I've hurt myself, for all the times I did not pay attention. I now choose to be at peace. So be it. Why did you hurt yourself so much? Do you want to change that? Mm-hmm. Remember, it's just a thought away. You carry too much that you do not need. Emotionally, all attitudes and ideas, and misery guts thoughts. I mean, you're really good at saying, yeah, right, I'm really good, but then you go, kick. Not all the time, but, I look at someone like yourself who is so integrated, and you just go, like this a little bit. And so you've got to realize, what am I doing that for? I'm God. God doesn't have to do it that way. So, again, what you've got to remember is, what your guides are saying, make peace with yourself more. So the more you're at peace with self, then that's easy. And this is the thing to remember also, that the more you're at peace with yourself, the easier it is to attract that which you want. So if you're approaching your issues through conflicts and doubts and fears, etc., well then of course what's going to happen is that you're going to get more conflicts and doubts, etc. So you just keep the ball rolling, as they say, in that particular way. Whereas if you allow yourself to think, oh yeah, that issue, no, I'm at peace with that, then you're basically setting yourself up as the driver. And you're not allowing yourself to be the passenger anymore. And so this is the thing, you humans allow yourself to get so caught up into being the passenger. I've got to be driven somewhere. Or if you're not driving somewhere, then you're picking up soul hitchhikers. You're driving along, you do that too actually. You're driving along the road of life, and what happens, everything is really good, and it's wonderful and balanced, and all of a sudden you see this soul hitchhiker, so you stop, And they say to you, oh, can you take me on the road? And you go, yeah, no trouble. And you say, oh, where are you going? And they go, oh, I'm going 20 billion miles that way. And you go, oh, that's fine. I don't mind going out of my way for you. So you do it for a while, and you're driving, and you're chatting, etc. And then after a while, you sort of feel this bit of resentment. It's like, oh, I'm going out of my way for this person, and they're not even talking to me. They're just sitting being backseat drivers, or just completely ignoring me. And so you think, oh, I'm not being very spiritual here. I better just keep on. And you're getting tighter on the steering wheel of life, etc., you see. And then after a while, you sort of turn to this person and say, well, and I'm going a long way out of my way for you. And they go, oh, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And you go, oh, well, okay, I'm being really ungenerous here, Anyway, so you carry on a little bit more, and then at some point you've had it. So you just pull over and you say, look, I can't take you on this road. Well, that's really mean of you. I really appreciate it and all this sort of stuff, but now you just dump me in the middle of nowhere. So, of course, up comes the guilts and the fears and all that sort of stuff, you see. And then at some point, you really have to let that go. And then you have to get back onto your main road. Don't do that. Don't pick up soul hitchhikers. It's not necessary. You don't need to do it. I'm not saying don't give people a lift, but only take them on the road that you're going on. Because that is what you want. And it's not about having to go out of your way for other people. Don't forget, the God nature in you is obviously going to ask you, could you serve that person in some way? Could you say something there or do something there or whatever? And your instincts will say, oh, this is a really good thing to do. But if your instincts go, no, then that's what it means. It doesn't mean, oh, yes, maybe, and okay, we'll give it a go and see what happens. It means no, or it means yes. And if your God nature is saying, yes, it's a really good thing to do what you're doing, well, then by all means, do it. But if your God nature is saying to you, don't do it, then your God nature is telling you not to do it because it doesn't serve you, and it never will. And people think, oh, well, that's being very ungenerous, and that's not being very spiritual, etc. Yes, I believe, be your brother's keeper. But then you have to decide how you're going to keep your brothers. You're the one who makes a decision about what way you're going to serve energies, you see. What wondrous souls you are that you've allowed yourself to experience this, which you call your life. And it's that life which you're going to have more of. Because it's you who's making the decision to have more of it. And that's what's in front of you. It's more and more and more and more. But it's so simple to have more. It's never been a complicated experience, you see. Remember, you're always recording everything all of the time. You're recording your experiences. You're recording your life. You wish to let the pain out of your body? Sure. How do you think you would do it?
By denying that I'm having it.
Why do you think you created it? Why do you wish to have locked it inside of you? Yeah, but do you think that by being God, you can just allow the past to just be what it is, and therefore just allow yourself to decide, I don't need to experience my evolution or my enlightenment through pain anymore? Do you want to? You're too hard. You see, you've made that your identity. So as you keep making it your identity, well then of course the cells of your body are just going to feed into that all of the time. You can be so free in an instant like that. And all you have to do is make the decision about that. And I have seen you struggle very much in regards to, oh, how will I do this? And I reach for that situation, and that situation, I go to that person and do this, etc. Because you're looking for the answer. But you are this answer, as I said before. So the power is up to you. And I know where your energies are, but you've got to give yourself permission to live. So this is where it's about working on, yeah, I'm going to decide to live. I don't have to work on it. I tell my body, oh body, we're living now. And we're living without pain. And we're living without limitation. And what we've done before, body, we don't have access to those old files anymore. So they're deleted. So it's about deleting it. But you see, you're a victim of the past. And so you're dragging the barge around. You know that song, Old Man River? Yeah, well, it's like that, all right? So you're toting the barge and lifting the barrel. And it's a choice you're making. So you could say you are God doing it your way. But it's like, oh, but I got to suffer.
You have a friend who is a toxic friend,
Yeah.
And you don't want to hurt their feelings, but how do you get rid of them out of your life? I mean, do you just say, go away, I can't have you in my life anymore?
What you do first is you decide, okay, I make peace with this in my thoughts and my heart. I make peace with this. And then by making peace with it, then I stand differently in the foundation. And then I begin to observe how I'm responding to it. So it's not necessarily about, bag off, leave me alone. It's more a matter, okay, let's just stand in a place of peace because you've turned the situation rather into a conflict. And of course, there's someone saying you got all the guilt and all that going around as well. And so as you bring this vibration in, then what happens is that, well, this feeds this person. So of course, as you also thought about it, if you think of them as toxic, well then of course, then what's going to happen. So you got to start thinking of them as God. That's God being toxic. And so you see, from that point, then it lifts your vibration up, you see. They're not your enemy, but they're also a reflection of your own toxicity, of your thoughts and attitudes and patterns. No, she doesn't. She's who she is. Yeah, she's who she is. What you're doing is you're allowing yourself to do what you do. Don't blame her. And it's not blaming yourself either. And say you got yourself into the situation, you can make peace with it. And so by fighting the situation, then this is where it's making it worse. So what you do, you just decide, right, I don't have to take that vibration on board anymore. And my feeling as I'm saying this is that if you just be at peace with this, work on being God with this, and do this daily, in a month you will find things will shift absolutely. But thing is that when I look at this person, they're like, you're the ship, they're the anchor, and they're actually holding you down. So you're trying to move, and you're dragging the anchor, basically, see. And so you can let this person go with love. But what I also feel here, too, is a huge amount of codependency is going on here. And so with all this codependency, then what happens is that your obligation is coming into this, you see. But your guides are saying to tell me that you've made your amendments, and now you need to make peace. So whatever karma energy between the two of you, that was finished a long time ago. But in here, it's like, oh, but I need to be a victim. So this is where you have to look at your own victim consciousness. But you see, that comes from your mother. So you've got a little conditioning that's going on there. I don't want to go into that.
Thank you.
You are very blessed.
Thank you. Thank you.
I watch you. Hey, freedom is a finger snap away. And if you look at it from that point, well, then this is where you think, well, I can just be free right now. But then you can be free in this room with all this collective energy. But then you go outside and you think, oh, well, that was great. I had 10 minutes of freedom. And now let's just pick up the barges again and drag my bags around with me, you see. And of course, as you do that more and more, well then your system that's used to doing that will go, oh yeah, that's what I do. And so you just keep on doing the same thing. And practicing freedom is a 24/7 thing. But then how do you define freedom? So remember, no right way, no wrong way, only your way. And you create that every day. So freedom is going to be something different to you every day. Do you know that enlightenment for some people is to be able to buy a 42-inch plasma screen television? True. And for some people, enlightenment is to be able to buy that dress that they got on tick, I think they call it. And for other people, enlightenment is to be able to get fresh water. And for others, to sell their vegetables at the market in Peru, and they walk 20 miles to do so. And for other people, enlightenment is to find a cure for their HIV or for their cancer. Or for some, it's to actually have a great relationship with their children. And others, it is to just look at it purely from a spiritual perspective. But if you think about what I said before, enlightenment is to be in light of you. And that means all of you. And when I mean all of you, I don't mean this group, I mean all of you that you are. And you are many things. You are so many, many aspects of yourself all the time. So each day when you awaken, it's like, all right, well, which aspect of myself do I wish to invite in today? And when I bring that vibration in, what should I do with it? How shall I organize it? How shall I allow myself to experience that part of myself, you see? And if you're always in charge and always allowing yourself to be the master, then you will never, ever get off course. And if you get off course, that's because you are not paying attention. And so again, it comes right back to that thing about paying attention. And by paying more and more and more attention, you give yourself more and more chances and more choice. Hello, Dolores. How are you? How nice to see you.
Okay.
Thank you for having us. You are all masters. You are all teachers. You're all gods. You can't be anything else. It's just a choice that you have to make. Think of your silence for the moment. You listen to your silence. You're a nice person. Why are you sitting all alone? You had to sneak in the back. See, this is what people do. I've got to sneak into my life, you see. I don't want anyone to notice me. If they notice me, then I might have to be God. You have a great heart chakra. You've got a power in your heart. Good healer too. How do you use your heart energy? And how do you wish to be God? Consciously? What do you believe your message to this world is? You carry that very powerfully around you. This man, he can just walk into a room and people chill. And that's it. It's just a frequency, you see. It's a vibration. So it's not what you have to say. It's not what you have to do. It's just really just being the frequency, really being the vibration. So when humans talk about what is the purpose of my existence, you don't have to look for it. Just for a moment, what you have to do is you make a noise. See, if you think about that vibration thing, and you get frequencies that don't blend, you get static, you see. So it's no different. So human nature, at the moment, is full of static. And when you become full of static, you can imagine what you must be absorbing all of the time without realizing that is what you're doing. And can you imagine what you must go to your beds with? That's why it's really important to bring the sponge out, to do the emptying every day. Even if it is a great experience that you've had, even if it's the grandest and most wonderful thing you've ever done, it's still important to empty yourself of it, because that was that experience, for that vibration and that energy. Humans talk about the preparation for these changing times. It's not like you have to go to school to do it. It's something that, if you're conscious of every day of your life, you're always doing it by the very act of life itself. And as you are living that life consciously, and you're letting the systems know what's going on, then your mind and your body and your spirit knows exactly the sort of preparation it needs to make. And obviously, there will be times when your mind self, your body self, your spirit self will need to be directed to certain roads more consciously. So you may come to something like this, or you may attend some meditation group, or you do something intellectual, do something physical, whatever. But whatever it is, if your mind self or body self or spirit self is saying to you, feed me, then it means that. But it doesn't mean it has to be all at the same time, or all in the same ways. So as you live each day, that's why it's important to have this dialogue with yourselves. What are my needs? What's being presented to me? Not, I wonder what's in front of me. I wonder what my day will be. I wonder how it will work out for me. But to be more direct to all of the selves is very, very vital to your survival. You're very raw at this point in your earthian history. You're very raw and you're very exposed at this particular point. It's because those dimensions that you've been hiding behind are no longer available to you in the same way. And when you can no longer hide anymore, then suddenly, well, there it is. It's like a person who knows they're going to die. And they've never had any particular belief about anything. And yet, there's something in them that says, well, here I am. It's really going to happen. And I can no longer hide from this. I can no longer shy away from this possibility. I'm going to find out for sure. Whether that's death or life itself, it's the same. There's always a point where you know, well, I'm going to find it. But how, when you find it, will you deal with it? How will you decide the outcome of your life? And because nothing is ever shut off to you, as these layers move away from you more and more and the experiences that go with them also move away from you, then this is where you are conscious of the realms of information that you people call spirit. But it's just there. Now, what's in a word? What's in a phrase? It's just there. You know, like when you want to listen to the radio, you know, you switch over, you know, you go, flick, ping, up comes the music or the words or whatever. And then you don't want to hear it anymore, so you just switch it off. Or you just change the station. And you're doing that in your lives all the time. You're changing the station. You're allowing yourself to experience all sorts of different frequencies, all sorts of different information all of the time. And so now, there's certain stations that are no longer available to you because the vibration of it, the density of them is no longer suitable. I don't need that information anymore. So therefore, I move on to another signal. I remember some years ago, some man, he was a computer person. He says to me, Tabaash, all this talk of God and blah, 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 talk to me in a language I can actually understand. I said, oh, that's easy. Because he wanted to say, define God in computer terminology. And I said, okay, if you are just in your human nature, then that's having dial-up. And when you are God, then that's having broadband. So you just got a faster connection with more information available to you. And of course, like technology, it's always looking for faster ways, etc., though it doesn't always work. But it's always expanding, you see. And that's how it works. You're expanding your frequencies by the less you are as human beings. So as you outgrow your human nature, that is how you become God. If you get caught up into the human nature, then you're just going to be involved in denser frequencies. And it really is that easy. It really is that simple. And all you need to do in your thoughts is to express to yourself, I am God. I am God, mind, body, spirit. Or find the words that work for you. You don't have to use the G word if you do not want to. But it's about allowing yourself to recognize that you're having to define your own script. And as you define that script, well then you're also the characters, and you're the director, and you're the producer, and you're the lighting person. You're doing absolutely everything. I mean, humans talk about, I'm creating my reality, and I'm positioning everything here. But then you sort of blindly walk through life, and you walk into it. And you think that you're in charge. So, to yourselves, a good thing to do would be to ask yourself, how much in charge am I? Write that down on your pieces of paper. How much in charge am I really in my life? Am I really God? Do I believe that? Or is it just some concept that I'm playing with at this particular point? Am I living it? And of course, you define how you would go about doing that. Am I living that vibration? Am I living that frequency? Which frequencies, i.e. people, do I no longer resonate to anymore? Who am I letting in to my life that is not a good vibration for me? And remember, it's not good, it's not bad. It's just life. Because of the amount of collective fear that has been accumulating over these last few decades. It got to this point where you can no longer sustain the old ways, the old patterns. You put yourselves collectively into an enormous amount of debt on all levels. So what you've had to do, as you people say, is pay the price. And you've paid this through your present economic situation that your world is involved in. You're paying this through the conflicts and the wars. You're paying this all the time by the way you are indebted to life. You owe nothing. And when you stop thinking that you owe nothing and realize that you are always wealthy on all levels, then this is where the vibrations shift and the vibrations change. But there is conscious efforts on your planet to keep people down, as they say. And you're being fed information, you're being fed ideas, you're being fed experiences that stimulate your fears, that stimulate the human nature part of you into staying locked into those old patterns. And you buy into it. You buy into it all of the time, whether that's subliminally or consciously. You're buying into that. So again, you've got to look to your own individuality and ask yourself, right, well, if I'm going to buy into anything, what am I going to buy into? And how am I going to invest in it? So your life is your investment. Your life is your business. And you've got to invest in that business. And so what you do, you look consciously at what the terms of your investment are. You know, as people who invest money in businesses, etc., as business people, you want to get your returns. And life is no different. You want to get the best returns possible. So therefore, you've got to be good business people. You've got to be sharp. You've got to be conscious. You've got to be aware of what the market of life is actually doing. And as you invest well by the formula of mind, body, spirit, then you always get a good return. But like some investments, oh no, I got to realize that investment. I can't afford to invest in that anymore. So you pull away from that and you invest in something different. And so now on a collective level, you are investing in, I'm not going to call it a new dimension. I'm just going to call it consciousness. You're investing in consciousness. It's the taking away of the dimensions that gets you back into clarity, see. Because you no longer need to be influenced by any other thoughts and vibrations apart from the God vibration, the God nature. And this doesn't mean that you don't think intellectually and experience things. It just means you do not anymore have the static. You don't have access to frequencies, vibrations. They're going to get in the way of what you could create together. As you take away your human nature, it doesn't mean you take away your individuality, because your individuality comes from your soul. So you all have your own particular soul frequencies, vibrations. But as you take away your human nature, then this is where you all realize that, yeah, I do love everybody. And we all blended together. And we know how it works, because we're not letting anything get in the way. And again, you find your own particular manner of how you choose to serve. Because as souls, you have your own particular aptitudes, talents, as you people call them, that you want to express. And that's why some are great writers, and some are great healers, and some are great dancers, and some are great politicians, and some are great academics. And those are their voices, you see. You all have lots to say. And you're saying it by all the different ways that you experience life. And as you keep evolving and growing and keep adding other ideas about yourself in your expression, then this is where you suddenly discover another ability, another talent. Oh, you know, suddenly at the age of 50, I discovered I can do this. Where did that come from? Well, you lived up to that particular point. And that's when you wanted to find that voice. And other times you step away from certain voices. I don't need to say that anymore, so I say it this way instead, you see. Do you have the courage, though, to totally and absolutely be you? Or is your life still being influenced overtly through other people's needs of you or how they need you to be. And everybody in this room is at times allowing themselves to still adapt themselves to suit other people. And if that's a natural thing to do, fine. If it's not, well then you'll just keep on creating issues until you find a way of not doing that anymore. I think that, in my observations of human history, this is a very honest time for people to be involved in their lives. It's the most honest time that you can experience at this point. It's like you're, born. And when you're born, then it's like you're just placed in your mother's arms. Well, your soul is born again. And you're being placed in God's arms. And God is the ultimate father-mother. And so as you're placed in that arms, it's about allowing yourself to be nurtured. It's allowing yourself to be guided and to be directed. And as you're guided and directed, then God's energy is literally saying to you, don't forget, you have your own free will. That's what I created you with. And one of the most important things I believe at this time in history is for you all to be creators together. By being creators together, then the power to change everything is there. Whether that's two people, whether that's a group like this. But it's about allowing yourselves to be so clear and to be so honest and to be so absolute that you make it work. And you don't have to do it for any reason. You do it because that's how the energy works. I think it's question time, yes? Yeah, okay, yep. Just don't ask me about the lotto numbers or is there a man out there for me or whatever. That's what usually people, oh, is my house going to sell? No, I won't take personal questions, so we'll just make it general. No, we'll just make it general.
Okay. If anybody has questions, want to come up to the microphone. Okay.
They all personal ones, you see.
Here's some. I was thinking you surely couldn't have answered all of their questions. Here it comes.
Hello.
Hello. You talked a lot about that we're in a special time. Are we, do you see this time in the next year or so as growing in numbers and people coming together in more of a conscious and more of a peaceful way?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the last 10 years, particularly, of human history, there's been this enormous, what I'll call soul emergence, as people more and more understand their God nature. And people are seeing each other from a very different perspective. But as you know, people are still wary of each other, you see. And it's like anything that, oh yeah, I know that, but I'm so caught up into my human nature that people approach it with trepidation. And so I think it's more about, no, I know what I'm feeling, let's trust this. People say, let's go with this. I mean, I personally think it's exciting. Humans talk about, 2012 and all the disasters, etc., etc. But, I mean, it's just a time when you become God consciously, where the energy is just everything more. But then again, it's the organizing of it. And that's why, when you talk about, are people awakening more? Yeah, they are, but they've got to look at how they organize it. And this is a real vital thing to look at as individuals. Okay, I know this, but what am I doing with it? I've got my awareness, but I'm actually living it in my life. And it's the living of it in your life that keeps making the difference, you see. I mean, everybody can go around and gather information and knowledge and wisdom and experience. But are you actually going home and put it into practice? I mean, you know this because you've done a lot of gathering. And you get quite lazy sometimes about how you actually weave it into your own life, you see. Because you get so caught into the human nature, routines and rituals, and, oh no, I'm going to the transformation conference. That's when I'll be God. but I'll be God when I get on the bus, and when I go to work, and all those things. You've got to be it all of the time to know how it works, you see. And by doing it this way, this is where the consciousness keeps being raised more and more all the time. And then suddenly people just find, they're nicer to each other and kinder to each other. But isn't it not interesting that it takes human nature disasters to make people like each other again? I mean, you only have to look at 9/11 and how it pulled people in again. But that didn't have to happen. You don't have to actually have conflict to bring people together. Let's see if you can bring each other together by a happy event. By something that everyone's smiling about. Oh, well, this is how it should be because we've been through pain. And you see this on individual levels through losses, etc. You see. So play your role, play your part.
Well, can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Okay. So when you're feeling, the happy events don't seem to be the catalyst for people to move it took this economic change, I believe, for people to really understand what was valuable in their lives. That they stopped worrying about paying for a house, and they stopped worrying about buying the next big TV. And so although I see that as kind of a disastrous event, it really is a happy event.
But don't look at it as a disastrous event. Look at it as a catalyst.
That's what I, that's,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. Do you know the etymology of the word disaster?
No.
It's from the Latin, dis and astrata, which means to be torn asunder from the stars. So when you forget your God, you get disastrata, or the Latin disastratum. And so therefore, disasters, are human thinking patterns. But as people individually take responsibility for the way they need to deal with it, like for you, okay, I'm not going to see that as disaster. I'm just going to see that as life. And I know what I need to do. So I'm just going to get on and do it. And the more I do it, then the better influence I'll have on the world. Simple.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello.
Hello. There's so much being written about and talked about December 21st, 2012. What do you feel about this?
2012?
2012.
Yep. Okay. Well, as I said just before, it's this enormous shift of consciousness. I mean, think about what I was saying earlier on about how you outgrow certain things. So you've outgrown a certain frequency. You've outgrown a vibration. Your souls have evolved to a certain point where your physical bodies and your physical systems can no longer work with those old vibrations and old energies. So you're having this shift of consciousness. And as you move into that shift of consciousness, then you're establishing the new age, as you people have called it. And those new ages mean, I've got to think differently now. I've got to feel differently now. I've got to experience life differently now. And it's a very gradual process. It's not just something that has to happen overnight. For 50 years, this energy has been building. And the last 20 years it's been accelerating. And this is why physiologically people have been experiencing this. Many people, for instance, have been experiencing this heating up of their bodies. And so what's happening, I call it the soul menopause. And so it's like every cell of your body carries a vortex. And this little vortex spins. And so as you pour more of God's power into your body, then of course as the vortices spin, then it's shifting the physiological system. So it's allowing your physical system to function on a higher level. And as it functions on a higher level, as you raise your consciousness up, what this is doing, as people are discovering, it's starting to isolate first the weak areas of your body. And as it isolates those weak areas, and it doesn't have to be major, then this is where you suddenly think, I'm holding on to something there, or that chakra's not working, or I need to let go of something in my joints or whatever. So as the new energy pushes through your body and the consciousness shifts, then it's giving you permission to suddenly realize, okay, this is my weaknesses, I know what to do. Now this is also in your political systems, in your economical systems, in your environmental systems, same thing. So everything is just shifting up, and it's pushing out the old vibrations and energies, you see. And I truly believe that humans have made the decision to stay alive on this planet. So I feel that there is not this, as the word was used, disaster that you're heading towards. You're heading towards the most extraordinary life. You're heading towards the most amazing vibrations and feelings. And so let go of the old ideas and take that on board. That's the reality that I wish to create. That's what I'm going to pay attention to. And so 2012 will be a great collective energy also of more and more people knowing that they're God. And because of that, what's that going to do? It's going to open up so many more files for you, and suddenly you'll be feeling this energy and these ideas and these experiences. And it's just a natural part of the evolution of the gods in human bodies on this planet. And it will carry on doing so because everything will keep evolving. Everything will keep growing. It's just never going to stop.
You said that we needed to release all experiences, both positive and negative.
Correct.
But does focusing on positive experiences bring more positive experiences into your life?
No, not necessarily. Because again, if you look at it from the point of polarity, then if you're saying there's a positive, then that means that on some level you're accepting there's a negative. So what you do is that you completely dispense with the positive and the negative and just think, that's how it is. So it's just the point of consciousness, you see. So again, I'm God doing that. So it's not, oh, I've got to be really positive, because that means that you're saying you're not. So this is where you've got to realize you're going to have this tug of war going on and on all the time, you see. It's like people say, you know, this is good, this is bad. And that's how most people will live their lives, you see. But there is no bad and there is no good. There is only a decision that you make. So do you choose to always be God? Ooh, too long of a pause. Yes or no?
Not always. I don't think.
You're sitting on the fence here.
I will. Try.
See her human nature? See what it's doing? She wants to be it, but the human nature is still going, I don't know. You know, is something going to happen to me if I say I'm God? There's nothing else that you can be. I mean, when I'm looking at your vibration, your God nature is saying, trust my process. You're trying too hard to get it, but there's nothing to get. You know, you don't have to have this battle with self. Your guide showed to me like all these little hurdles that you set up in front of yourself. And they're not big ones, they're just like ones you have to sort of step over. But occasionally you trip over one, you see. So what you do is you realize, oh no, I just want a clear path, because that's just the decision I made. I'm powerful because I can be. I'm God because I can be. Successful because I can be. And I mean, you know, someone is saying, you're trying too much to look for how you identify within yourself. And so, I mean, when I look at you, you're a dancer, you're a creative person, you've got all this vibration to move and to experience and to express. You're also a nurturer and a healer, and you've got the ability to care. You've got the ability to lift people. And so you have, like I like to call a lighthouse effect, you see. So this lighthouse effect, you know, is just already there. So stop trying to be and stop trying to do and simply exist. And as you wake up each day, you could say to yourself, right, how shall I be God today? And what's my expression of this particular day? And see, again, it's this whole thing about, well, you carry a lot of fear around with you too. So I don't mean like terror, but just, oh, I don't want to get it wrong. And so there's nothing to get wrong unless you believe that, you see. So, do you choose to be God consciously?
Yes.
Give it an applause.
Thank you.
Any more? And then I go, okay, that's cool. Thank you. Thank you. I'll bring Blair back. He'll be a bit zonky when he comes back, but he'll be cool. Thank you. Goodbye. We love you. Goodbye. G'day. Well, that was Tabaash. I always never know what to say after these things. I hope you had a good time, and if you want to come and talk to me afterwards, I'll just gather myself a little bit. So it's been an honor, so thank you very much.
And he always says, if you come up to him afterwards and ask him what he said, he's not going to remember. But he is available for private sessions while you're here, one-on-one. And then he'll take all kinds of personal questions in the private sessions. Okay, well done.
What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to DoloresCannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.